Okay, today in class we talked about fraction division and we looked at a lot of diagrams and pictures, and we started with some easy pictures like this one right here, where we were investigating how many fourths were in 1/2. So the division problem, 1/2 divided by 4, is asking us how many 1/4 slices are in a half. So over here is a green 1/2, and if you divide it into two parts, you can see there is two 1/4 slices in a half, and so we say 1/2 divided by 1/4 is 2. And that picture was pretty easy for people to draw. But when we looked at this next picture, we were asking how many 3/4 are in 2 1/4, and we used the smartboard tool to kind of explain that. So just to review, when we look at a half, we can see that there's 2/4, two 1/4 slices in a half. So that's why we say the answer is 2 here. We want to use that thinking down here. And we want to ask ourselves, how many sets of 3/4 are in 2 1/4? So what you see here is that I have two holes. So this is a hole, and that is a hole, and that is a fourth. So together, that makes 2 1/4, which is where this comes from. And we want to see how many 3/4 are in 2 1/4. And in class today, you did a really good job of doing that by visualizing that you could take a piece from the first hole and a piece from the second hole, and now you have 3 sets of 3/4. That's 3/4, that's 3/4, and that's 3/4. And so there are 3 sets of 3/4 in the number 2 1/4. And I know you don't have a smartboard at home, which is why when we look at our note catcher, we used color to denote the answer. So with color, we first built 2 1/4 right here, and then we shaded in 3/4 and found out there's 3 sets of 3/4. But as you know, it's not always practical to draw all these pictures. So we also looked at some rules, and one rule was the common denominator method. So if we want to validate that this is in fact 2, we can do that with this common denominator method. And these were the steps that we did. Step 1 was find a common denominator. So 1/2 is the same as 2/4. So I'm going to change the problem to 2/4 divided by 1/4. Step 2 was to change any mixed numbers to improper fractions. And in this problem, there are no mixed numbers, so we move to step 3. And step 3 is to divide the numerators. So we look up at the original problem, and we do a division problem. So we could say 2 divided by 1 is 2, which is the answer we got. Or you could even write that as a fraction, 2/1, which is also 2. And those are the simple steps. So we practice that again with the common denominator method on this next example. So step 1 was find a common denominator. And in this problem, There's already a common denominator. So step 2 is to change any mixed numbers to improper fractions. So 2 1/4 becomes, you multiply 2 times 4 to get 8 and add 1 to get 9. So we have 9/4 divided by 3/4. And then step 3, divide the numerators. So when we divide the numerators, we're just going to do 9 divided by 3. We can write it in fraction form. Nine divided by 3 is 3. We figured that out over here. And don't forget that 9 divided by 3 can also be written this way. So you have the option. But either way, your final answer is 3. Then we have this problem also on your note catchers. Step 1, find a common denominator. So I'm going to change 1/2 to 8ths. And this becomes 3 4/8 divided by 5/8. Step 2 is change 3 4/8 to an improper fraction. So when I do that, I get 24 plus 4 is 28/8 divided by 5/8. Step 3 is to divide the numerators. So that's 28 over 5. And your answer is 5 3/8. Then we did some practice. So step 1, find a common denominator. Rewrite this as 4/6 divided by 1/6. Step 2, change any mixed numbers to improper. We don't have any. Step 3, divide your numerators. That's your final answer. Oh, except for that problem asked me to use a diagram. So, even though this is correct, let's shrink it up and show that's true with a diagram. So a diagram is a little bit more challenging. So I'm going to make a diagram of 2/3. So for 2/3, I'm going to take a circle and make a peace sign and erase part of it. That's 2/3. And then I'm going to ask myself how many sets of 1/6 are in 2/3. So I'm going to divide that into 6. That's a 6. So there's 4 sets of 1/6. And then this is a check. Now on this next one, find the quotient using common denominators. I'm going to rewrite 2/3 as 4/6 divided by 5/6. So step 1, common denominators, done. Step 2, there are no mixed numbers. Step 3, divide the numerators. 4 divided by 5 is 4/5. So that's your final answer. We did this hard problem in class. So the picture for 5 1/2, first let's just build 5 1/2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need a half circle. So I'll erase part of that. And I'm asking myself, how many sets of 4 are in that 5 1/2? So this is one set of 4. And now we have to think a little bit harder. And we talked about this in class, but it was really challenging. If I think of 4 and what's left over, there's 3 parts left over out of 8 parts. In 4. So we would say 1 and 3 parts out of 8 parts. That's a tricky picture to draw. That's like a level 3 picture. And we're going to wrap up with this last problem. Find the quotient using common denominators. So step 1, find a common denominator, is done. Step 2, change to improper. So that's 9 plus 2 is 11. Six plus 1 is 7. Step 3, divide the numerators. Final answer, 1 4/7. And that's the beginning of fraction division.